Hi, Julie. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Hi, Kimberly. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. So, what I would like to do is I would like to, first of all, formally introduce you, and then I will informally introduce you. So, let me get the formality out of the way. You are Julie Martin of Retire Ready Hilton Head. And I am going to read off of your bio here because it's very interesting and I don't want to miss anything. Julie has over 32
Okay.
years of experience at AT&T, Microsoft, and Marriott Vacations Worldwide. Her areas of expertise were in sales and marketing, as well as human resources with an emphasis on management and leadership development, career development, succession planning, and coaching. You've been recognized for your effective training and facilitation skills, your coaching skills, and your ability to develop leaders at all levels. You have worked across all levels of organizations, as well as across professions, generations, and geographic boundaries. As Julie was approaching retirement, she was very comfortable with her financial plan, but she realized that there's some non-financial aspects of retirement that she needed to address. And I am happy to say that is how I met Julie. She is also a certified professional retirement coach. She serves the population around Hilton Head and some other areas. She's taking all of her previous experience and really making that work for her clients. She has high end, very successful clients that are wanting to take that success into their retirement. So, Julie, I am so glad that you and I have met. I'm glad that we have this ongoing collaboration. I know we have some upcoming training in Chicago that we're going to do together. So, I'm just very excited about what you have to bring to the population you're serving, but also to the population of first responders and how you're going to be able to help me serve the population that is so dear to me. So, after all of that, how do you describe yourself? How do you see yourself? Who is Julie in your own words?
I am a very passionate individual, Kimberly. Thanks for the introduction, by the way. The reason I say I'm a passionate individual is my passion is around helping people, helping others. My entire career, from the time I was in sales training to HR training and then leadership development and training, I've always helped people grow, develop, find their next opportunity, whether it was in a company or outside a company. And as you said, as I'm approaching retirement, because I'm no spring chicken, but as I'm approaching retirement, I realize that there's a lot of things out there as I've got my certification, I'm learning about. It's not all the rosy pictures that people think it is in retirement. So now, and hopefully you'll ask me how I even got into this business in the first place at some point, because it is a funny story, a true story, but a funny one at that. But now that I'm nearing retirement, and I've done all the work and the learning and the research. It's amazing what all goes into preparing for retirement to make sure, one, that you don't waste the time that it takes, because studies and statistics show that it could take 2 years to ease into retirement, much less just retire. And I don't want to waste that time, and I want to help people kind of flourish in retirement, whether they become somebody new, whether they reinvent themselves, whether they do everything they've wanted to do when they were working full time. I want to help in that aspect and with that transition. So that's who I am. And I'm a passionate individual, passionate about helping others.
Well, my goodness, you just hit so many topics right there that we could do over and over and over again. So I absolutely do want to hear how you got involved in this, our new adventure. But I do want to point out also that you say you're not a spring chicken. Well, I am not a spring chicken either. But we are spring chickens when it comes to the rest of the retirees. The average retiree is
Yes.
retiring older than we are. And that is a huge issue when it comes to first responders, military people, things along those lines, is we do retire young. I retired as a lieutenant from the Dallas Police Department at 53 years of age. When I tell people I'm
That's young.
retired, they look at me like I'm crazy. They are like, you're crazy. But I had 30 years as a police officer, and, there's a shelf life to that. And I have to
So
address things.
I want to touch on that. You had 30 years as a police officer. And now that you've retired at 53, you know about, you've studied as much as I do to get your certification, but you know about the longevity now of people living longer, living healthier. So you could very well have 30 years ahead of you, 30 very healthy years into, I'm doing the math, 83, that's a long time. I mean, I know your 30-year career was a long time, but now you might have another long time. So let's make it the best that it can be. And that's why I want to talk to first responders, and I'm sure you're doing the same thing, to say, think of retirement as the next best thing in your life.
Absolutely. And I do want that 30 years because I have a whole lot of stuff that I want to do. And when I went into retirement, I had a list of things. I actually did everything right going into retirement. I had a plan, I
Good.
had a list of things I wanted to do. I had great ideas, pretty secure in my identity. And there were still some rough spots that I hit. And but since I know what I want to be, not so much what I want to do, but what I want to be, it's really helped me go through
Mhm.
those little rough spots. But please tell us how you joined our profession of retirement life coaching.
So up until, oh my God, less than a year ago, I didn't even know this even existed. You would have said retirement coaching. What I would have said, what's that? And I was literally, true story. I was very well employed at Marriott Vacations Worldwide. I'm in marketing, loving it, doing great and whatnot. Then I happened across, I'm a golfer, happened across an article in a Golf Digest magazine of I think it was a June issue of last year. And it read, basically, the title was, "A Retirement Coach is Like a Golf Caddy." And literally, that article piqued my interest, and I read the article. I'm like, oh, this is interesting. And never ever do I take the time in especially a magazine, to read who wrote the article. And that particular time, don't ask me why, but I did. And it was Sue Mintz, who actually is based in Dallas. And Sue used to be an employee of mine when I was with AT&T. So that's over 22 years ago. So I literally, it said Sue Mintz, retirement coach with retirementhood.com and blah. So I literally reached out to Sue. I said, Sue, tell me more. This was all within the span of a couple of days after I read the article. So we got on the phone. She told me a little bit more, and she told me about the Retirement Coaches Association and all this certification. So I did a little more research, and next thing I knew, it was a week and a half later, I was resigning from my job at Marriott Vacation Worldwide, literally, to start on this next chapter in my life of becoming a retirement coach. So I went through my certification, and it is quite arduous, and my
Mhm.
practicum, and then started, built my website, and just like you, started my business, and my business launched on October 3rd of 2022. So I'm fairly new at this, but my God, like Robert Laura, the CEO and founder of the association, Retirement Coaches Association, would say, it's like, we as certified coaches now probably know 90% more than the general population about retirement. So, and the space is fascinating. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. And I love the story I love your story. I love the organic roots of it. I love the hope involved in it. I love the fact that your transition all started with saying yes. It all started with being curious and being open to something. And like you and I have talked about before, it's so easy for us individuals us to say, "Oh, I haven't talked to that person in years. They won't remember me," or, "Oh, that relationship was so old, it didn't matter," or, "I'm comfortable where I'm at. I'm secure where I'm at. I'm just gonna stay here." And we miss out on so many opportunities, so many opportunities.
Mhm.
And I'll be honest, first responders, we don't always approach life with that. We don't always approach life open. We tend to have a lot of what I
Okay.
call extra. We have the trauma, we have the drama, we have the crap. I'm cleaning it up a little bit for this recording. We have the crap of 20, 30, 40 years of dealing with the crap of life. And then we're just supposed to retire and everything's supposed to be happy. Like Robert Laura says, all of a sudden you should be happy. You've reached all your goals. And first responders don't necessarily approach it that way. And I think your story is an illustration of how it can be done. And I do know a lot of first responders that are approaching retirement curious and open. but not enough. There's not enough of us doing that. And honestly, that's why I want people like you to come and share your story. I mean, there are first responders that are going to hear that and say, well, I play golf, I read magazines, I know people. I just got to be open to it. I just have to say yes to it.
Yeah. It's not funny in that sense. You use the word crap as far as first responders going through. And I can say personally, I've been through some life's challenges. Probably certainly not along the lines of as a first responder, because I think you all do and see things that are, that some of us will never see in our lifetime. But on the same token, I think we as regular individuals also, I had the loss of my husband through a very sudden death. So loss of my father. So we go through other things that, kind of relate in a different way. But at the end of the day, we all go through our crap, if you want to call it that, but life goes on. That's what I like to say to people, life does go on. While you may not move forward, you can move on from things like this and adapt. And I think I'm the type of person who helps, especially people in retirement, adapt to their new life, their new changes. Because some of my clients have been through some crap too, and I just help them kind of see the crap in a different way, different light. If we want to call it crap, after that, it's not crap anymore. It's like the grass is greener. you know?
We want to encourage resiliency. We want to encourage flexibility. And especially when you have 20, 30, I know, potentially 40 years of life, there are going to be some changes. And like you said, there's just things that happen in life that everybody is going to have to deal with one way or the other. And so, if somebody can have a good foundation of knowing who they are, knowing what they want in life, how they want to be, how they want to live, where they want to live, it is going to be easier to handle those challenges. Retirement alone is what, number 10 out of the top 43 stressors that we have to deal with. And that happens at a time in
Yes.
life when a lot of other things are also occurring. So it can be quite a few, hits at one time. I was telling you earlier that, I'm sorry, you're going to say something?
No, well, yes, I want to emphasize that, retirement is in the top 10 stressors of life. Okay. And as we get older, whether you retire at 50 or whether you retire at 65 or 70 or don't retire at all, let's keep in mind there's going to be more and more life stressors, whether it's the death of a loved one, the death of a sibling or of a parent or whatnot. Those things are going to happen. They're inevitable. So if we can remove that stress of your retirement by, if you want to, just work with people like us as retirement coaches, we're not the end all be all, but we help you see things in a different way through the different resources that we have and we've learned about, that say, wow, I didn't realize this, that I could, I use a curious list, I use a friends list and with my clients. And it just kind of opens up their view to say, there's opportunities out there and I need to take advantage of this. And that is where we as retirement coaches come in. We're simply that. We're aides, we're coaches. We don't have all the answers to everything, but we certainly can help you kind of see the big picture of retirement. And if you can eliminate that as one of the stressors in your life, then so be it. We've done a really good job doing that. So let us help you, remove that as a stress item in your life, because we
I
have
was
enough
having a conversation.
stresses that, yeah.
I was having a conversation just last weekend with some extremely successful professionals that had retired. And I mean, these people, they have businesses all around the world, multiple houses. I mean, they're very, very successful people. And I just mentioned what I do, and I didn't have to say anything else after that. They just went on, the three of them, two men and a woman. They just, the conversation, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, But they were just talking about how they went into retirement expecting all of the success, all of the challenges, all of the thrills, all the excitement, all of the wins that they had in their professional life. And they couldn't
Mhm.
understand why they weren't experiencing that in retirement because they're financially secure. They live wherever they want to live. They travel when they want to travel, but they just didn't understand why they still felt like failures. And the way the conversation went was they each acknowledged that they would have never purchased a business. They would have never moved a business. They would have never hired an employee without doing research, without knowing what they wanted, what their end goal was, and what they expected to get out of that move, out of that action. But they didn't do any of that for retirement. They took care of financial, but they didn't do the rest of it. And then it was a very serious conversation. They're like, we dropped the ball on this. This is not how business people, it's not how successful people plan their future. This is not how successful people live. They would have never had the professional business success that they had if they had approached that life the way they approached their retirement. So then, when I did start speaking, I just started asking some questions and stuff, and you could already see the hope come up in them. You could already see, you know, they're like, "Well, it's not all's lost." I'm like, "Are you kidding? What do you mean lost? You can address this at any time. You just have to ask yourself the right questions, and you have to be willing to look at the answers." A lot of people assume, I use the beach for example. A lot of people assume that they want to live at the beach when they retire because that's where they used to go on vacation for a week or 2 weeks out of the time. Well, you and I both know living at the beach is very different than a week or 2 week vacation at the beach. It's very different. But people think they want to live at the beach. And so they jump through hoops to live at the beach and they're miserable. Miserable because they haven't looked at the big picture. And you and I help people get the big picture by looking at the small little snapshots that kind of form the big picture of their life. And I have to tell you, it is amazing to ask because you and we ask very easy questions. They're not hard questions, they're very simple questions that we ask. But to watch that click, to see the
Yeah.
look on their face at first, like, well, that's kind of a simple question. And I'm like, okay, let's think about it. And then to just watch the emotions go across their face as they're answering these questions and coming up with their own answer is it's amazing. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
I am glad that you bring that up because that's one thing I tell my clients, and they are some smart people and whatnot. But I tell them, look, I said, what we're about to do, I said, you've worked all your life to secure your financial future. Okay. You have documents, you have everything written, you know exactly. But how long have you worked to secure your emotional, your social future, your physical well-being? And they look at me like, what do you mean? I said, that's 80% of the other, 20% of the financial part. You've got 80% to address. And I said, what we're about to do when they start working with me, and I'm sure it's the same thing, same way with you, because we were both certified through the same, venue. But what we're about to do is really embark on an opportunity for you to write down your plan of what you want to do. What's important to you? What do you want to create? What's the legacy you want to leave? I don't know if you've used the legacy notebook, but I'm starting to use it more and more. And that's amazing. I have to share a funny story. It just happened this morning. One of my clients reached out. She says, Julie, we've already done our sessions and they had their retirement wellness plan and all that. She says, I'm going to start working on my legacy notebook and I want to reach out to you because there's things. She says, is it okay if I include my grandmother's old peach pie recipe? Because my kids want that and my grandkids. I said, anything goes. I mean, it's just one example, so that just literally happened this morning, but I get goosebumps sharing that. But there's so much more to retirement other than this, just the financial aspect. Yes, the finances are important. I'm not discounting that whatsoever, but the other things are important as well. And that's, the emotion, the social is, who are you going to be? Who are you going to be connecting with? What's going to be your new identity and your purpose in life in retirement? And I think that's what you and I and our Retirement Coaches Association are really trying to focus on to help people get to that point. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I've also started helping some local financial advisors here in a way that's a little different than people think it would be because those men and women, those are numbers people. They
Mhm.
don't they kind of want you to already know what you want before you show up so that they can tell you how much money you need and how to get it. So when somebody goes and
Yeah.
sits in front of them and doesn't know where they're going to live, who they're going to live with, are they going to travel? Do they need money for a business? What matters to them? Do they want to burn through all their money in their own life? Do they want to leave an inheritance for their children? If you don't have that life plan, at least an outline for it, what are you going to tell your financial planner, your financial advisor? What are you going to tell them? Also, you go to a realtor about buying a house, but you haven't had that conversation yet of, are we going to downsize? Are we going to upsize? Do we even need to still live in the same town that we're living in? Police officers in a lot of
Yeah.
cities, first responders, we don't want to live in the city that we work in. We want to get away, but we have to live within a certain mileage so that we can get there in a certain amount of time. Well, once you retire, you don't have anything holding you back from where you want to live. And so, a conversation that I've had with a
Yeah.
couple clients is, where do you want to live? Well, my house is paid for. I'm staying right here. Well, do you like your house? And the look, the silence. No, but it's paid for. But do you still need to live in that
But
community?
that's the
Yeah.
mindset.
Yes, yes. And so they're like, we've always wanted to
Mindset.
move. We were here when the kids went to school. We don't need to live here anymore. We were here, because of the drive time to work. We don't need to live here anymore. And we have that conversation. So all they were going to do is go to a realtor and potentially live in the same community, just a bigger or smaller house. In
Yeah.
reality, they want to get out of the state. They want to move. And it's just, I just love seeing that transition. We refer to retirement as a transition, but I like to see those small transitions, those little pivots, those little halts sometimes. Sometimes it's a hard stop. And then that pivot, I love seeing that. And I would imagine that you're seeing that with your clients also.
I am actually, what one of my most recent, actually two recent clients. One of them is a couple actually who I get a little bit of both. This is a couple who had retired 10 years ago, moved to Hilton Head. Hilton Head's a big retirement community, but to, play golf and be social and do all the things that retired people do. And I put that in quotations. And just recently one of them was diagnosed with a health issue that prevents them from playing golf, and the spouse doesn't want to be a social and play golf without the other spouse, and so it's completely turned their retirement plans upside down. So when they reached out to me, I just sat down, I did the fact finding and the intake and whatnot, but we found out it's like, okay, this is not the end of the world. So we looked at restructuring their retirement. It's still, they're still retired. They're not coming out of retirement. They're not going back to work or anything, but looking at different ways that they can still have their identity and a sense of purpose and give back and whatnot. And it's amazing that the light bulbs that went out for both of them, and the excitement. So there's hope for retirees that have not done so well. Now, one of them just recently retired, and she's young and she's married, and she was retiring primarily to care for her father. Okay, he wasn't dying at the time, but 3 weeks after she retired, he passed away. So there went, and she had been 30 years as a physician's assistant. Okay, so only knew that. And when he passed away, it created a big void in her life. And she reached out to me to help her figure out how to replace that void, that she was going to be a caretaker. And she's out of state, she's in Indiana. And so we look at, what's your purpose in life now that your father is gone? So we had to go through that hurdle. And it was tough and a lot of conversations, but we as coaches ask the questions. And I didn't solve her problem that her father had passed away, but I helped her see that there are other opportunities for her to bring good to what she's doing in retirement. So that's the fulfilling part, I think, of our job. When I say I have passion around helping people, everybody's different. Don't think that if you're soon to be retired and you think you're the same as everybody else. It is not a cookie approach that we use into helping people retire. Everybody is so different, and we ask the questions, and you all give us the answer. And I think that's what's important in the work that we do now.
One of the things that I like about doing this, and this goes back to being a long time, I've almost my whole time on the Dallas Police Department, I was an instructor at the academy. I would go in and teach classes all throughout the year, over the years. I taught for the Justice Department for a while, traveling around Texas. And what I like to do is, I don't like to stand in front of somebody and lecture them. I like to share the idea or share the concept, and then I want them to make it theirs. I want them to take that idea and work it into their life or not if it doesn't fit them. But to understand what they are supposed to be learning and how they can then use it. So, like the example of the woman who unfortunately lost her father
Yeah.
and was floundering in what she was going to do, our goal would be, you helped her this time. You taught her, you showed her how to ask the questions. You showed her how to have a space that she can ask questions and answer the questions and pivot and make new decisions. So I believe as coaches, what our goal is that later on, the next time that happens, they can fall back on that ability to ask themselves questions and come up with the answer. So
Absolutely.
they're not in our hip pocket, the next 20, 30, 40 years. It's we're giving them the ability to ask the questions. We're given the ability to listen to themselves and make those changes, just like they would have in their careers, just like they would have while they were
Yeah.
working. We need to take that skill, that ability, that open mind into our retirement years, ask ourselves the questions, look at the answers, and make our decisions. So,
That's
Julie,
right.
I have one thing that I like to ask everybody at the end of our session, and that is, well, first of all, if you have anything else that you want to
Okay.
say, but the question that I'm going to ask you is, as a retirement coach, what do you want people to remember you for or remember about you?
Um, there's one thing that I do want to say before I answer that question is
Okay.
as a retirement coach, and for those of you listening to this podcast today or this interview today, know that while we don't have all the answers, we certainly can help people who are not sure about what their retirement's going to look like, help you kind of look at the big picture. And Kimberly, you said it right. We ask simple questions, and these simple questions are such that later on in life, when you're going to be, against a conundrum or a fork in the road, you're going to now know what questions to ask yourself. So we are just that aid to get things going for you. Okay, so I want to emphasize that. We're not going to change your lives. We're not going to, reinvent you or anything like that. That's for you to do, but we're just going to help. I like to use the word nudge. We're like that forcing function to nudge you in the directions that you want to go. Now, as far as what is my passion. I think you probably can see just from talking here as I'm passionate. And my passion is, at Microsoft, we had this saying, help people reach their full potential. Now my passion has always been that, I realized that, but it's now helping retirees reach their full potential in their retirement years. That is what I want people to remember me by.
Excellent. Excellent. I do think we had a little bit of internet problems here, but your message got out, and I'm not going to edit that because I really want people to hear what you said in your own words. And, I
Yeah.
like that you used the word nudge also because, as a cop, when I coach other cops, sometimes I just kind of want to push them. I just want to say,
Mm-hmm.
you make big decisions. You've made life and death decisions. You can make this decision, but I also have to step back and respect that we
Yes.
can't do retirement necessarily the same way that we did our jobs as first responders. We have to take the success that we had in that and bring that into retirement, but take the stress, the drama, and the trauma out of it. So that's where
Mm-hmm.
I think,
Yeah.
you and I are always talking about the differences between our American population and our first responder population. And I think that that's probably it in a nutshell right there. But Julie, thank you so very much. You've been a wonderful, wonderful guest. I always like talking to you, and I love what you shared. I think your passion just comes through, and I love the thought of you serving the people that you serve. And I look forward to our collaborations in the future.
And you're so welcome, Kimberly. It's my pleasure, actually. But as a result of us connecting in the first place, I am now going to reach out. I do a lot of pro bono in the community as well, but I am going to reach out to the first responder community to hopefully do some workshops for our local first responders, just to make them aware of their retirement and how it can be the best time of their lives and whatnot. Especially those that do retire earlier. So you taught me a lot about the first responder population, and I have a debt of gratitude for you on that one. So I'm
Thank
looking
you.
forward to connecting in Chicago at our conference.
Thank you. And we will include all of your contact information in the show notes. Thank you so
Okay.
much. Bye bye.
All right. And we'll talk soon. You take care. Bye bye. It was a pleasure. Bye now.
Trying to